What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today I'm going to be sharing a bunch of things that you might not know about Black Ops Cold War that I just wanted to clear up. This is mainly going to be more of like a frequently asked questions because I've been getting asked a ton of questions since the reveal of Cold War, since I have played an alpha build of the game. And since I'm seeing a lot of the same questions pop up over and over again, it's obviously worth making a video about many of these features. So for many of these, they're just going to be quick one-off yes or no sort of things, and then a few other things are going to be more so my experience with certain aspects. Also, of course, keep in mind this is based on an alpha build of the game, so the answers you get in this video might not hold true for the beta or the full build of the game. And hopping right into it, let's start it off with a bunch of the settings. There's been so many questions asked about the different settings that you have access to in the game, and which ones are there, which ones aren't there. And one of the common ones is how many sensitivity values are there? Well, it turns out it's just like a traditional Black Ops game. We have our sensitivity range from 1 to 14, and also it's independent vertical and horizontal, so you can adjust them independently. Minimum is 1, maximum is 14. Now, comparing that to like Modern Warfare, for instance, 14 does feel like 20 and 1 feels like 1, so it's just different increments in this game. Additionally, on the topic of sensitivity, are there aim down sight multipliers? And yes, there are. Just like in Modern Warfare, we have high zoom and low zoom aim down sight multipliers, and it's on a slider exactly like we see in Modern Warfare, so you can set how your sensitivity reacts while aiming down sight, so you can make it so your sensitivity slows down while aiming down sight or speeds up. You have full control over that. Now, on that same topic of aiming options, a lot of people were asking if there are different response curves types like we have in Modern Warfare, where you can have the standard response curve, or you could go dynamic or linear if you wanted. In the build that we played, there were no options for this. There's just the standard response curve, and that's it. Hopefully this is something we will see once we get to the full build of the game, but for now at least, there wasn't an option for this. And the same thing goes with our aim assist options. In the alpha, it's basically your aim assist is on or it's off. There's no different types of aim assist like we have in Modern Warfare, and personally, I think that's a good thing. I think aim assist should be just a standard setting that everybody has access to if you're playing with a controller. And if you want to turn it off, you can do that, or you can leave it on, which is what it should be by default for controller players. On that same note of aim assist, while playing Cold War, it's definitely weaker than the aim assist in Modern Warfare. And I play with a standard aim assist setting in Modern Warfare, and it's a clear difference. It's night and day. In Black Ops Cold War, the aim assist is weaker than Modern Warfare. So I think a lot of PC players especially are going to be really happy to see that. Additionally, with aim assist, what about sniper rifles? Turns out, it's just like Black Ops 4, as far as I could tell at least, there is no aim assist whatsoever with the sniper rifles in Cold War. But moving on, still on the topic of settings, because there are a lot of settings to cover here and a lot of people have been asking about them. The next big one is there a field of view slider for console? And keep in mind this play session was on our home setups. I was personally playing on a PS4 Pro, and I can tell you on PS4 Pro at least, no, there was no field of view slider in this game. Which isn't too much of a surprise because we've never had one on console in Call of Duty. However, my big hope is at the very least for the next generation of consoles, we will have an FOV slider, or maybe even for the current gen, by the time launch comes around, who knows, maybe we could have one. But as of right now, at least on PlayStation 4, there is no field of view slider. Next up, a setting that I think a lot of people are really going to like. It turns out you can disable the health bar in-game if you don't like it, and there are a lot of people that really don't like the idea of the enemy having a health bar above their head when you're shooting them, and it looks like the devs understand that too because they did give an option, even in the alpha build, to disable that health bar if you want to. So I think that finally covers all of the most frequently asked questions about these settings that we had access to in the alpha. Now let's get into some more of the gameplay related things. Now some of these you probably already know just from watching videos and stuff, but I'm going to cover them anyway. And the first thing here is, are there doors? No. In regular multiplayer, there were no interactable doors whatsoever like we have in Modern Warfare. Also, there is no mounting mechanic or leaning mechanic whatsoever in this game. Now, as for the weapon inspect feature, as well as the execution or finishing move feature where you sneak up behind somebody and if you hold the melee button, then it has this whole animation of executing the enemy player, neither of those were in the alpha build of the game. However, yesterday we got some good news from Treyarch. Both of these features will be coming to the game for launch. And this is one of the reasons that a lot of the things on this list, even though they weren't there in the build that we played in the alpha, doesn't necessarily mean we won't see them in the full build. But moving on, a lot of people have been asking, do you get standard kills like most Call of Duty games, or is it the EKIA system like Black Ops 4, where even if you get an assist, it technically still counts as a kill for you? And it is actually the EKA system just like in Black Ops 4, which I do think makes more sense with the slightly slower time to kill, because then you run into fewer of those situations where you put 5 shots into an enemy player and then your teammate swoops in and puts just 1 bullet into them to finish them off, and then they effectively steal your kill. With the EKA system, it doesn't matter, you guys both get credit for that kill. Next up, when it comes to vehicles in the game, which in the build we played at least, there were only vehicles on the large-scale maps. There weren't vehicles on the standard 6v6 maps, but in the large-scale modes, we had access to snowmobiles as well as a tank. And when it comes to these vehicle controls, they're the same as Blackout for controller players, where you basically just drive using your analog sticks. You don't use the trigger buttons as your throttle or anything. You just kind of push forward on the analog stick or push in whatever direction you want to go with the analog stick, and that's where it goes. After that, another common question, can you edit classes mid-game? And yes, you can. So you can go in, you can access the full gunsmith features, so you can build and edit your class setup any way that you would like in the middle of a game. It doesn't change immediately for you. You do have to die and respawn in order to get those changes. But yes, it's just like Modern Warfare, you can edit classes mid-game. As for the next thing a lot of people asked about, this is drop shots. Can you drop shot in this game? And the answer to that is kind of yes and no. They have the same sort of system as Black Ops 4, where if you are trying to go prone while aiming down sight in a gunfight, it will force you to come out of aiming down sight for at least a short period of time as you're going prone. So this means that at mid to somewhat longer ranges, no, drop shotting isn't really an effective option. However, if you're super close quarters, yeah, you can absolutely still drop shot. You just have to realize that you won't be aiming down sight for a portion of that, which doesn't really matter if you're really close to your target. On that same note, a lot of people have been asking about jump shots, and are people going to be bunny hopping all over the place like you often see in Modern Warfare? And while it is still a bit early, and it seems like they are tweaking some of the movement mechanics, based on my limited experience, it doesn't really seem like jump shots are going to be too overboard this year. Now, I think there's still going to be a place for it, and I still think jump shotting around a corner, for instance, will be effective, because it just always is in Call of Duty. But it really felt like they had toned it down from Modern Warfare, and also from Black Ops 4. Black Ops 4 felt a lot more floaty when you jumped in the air. It doesn't seem like you get the same sort of hang time in Cold War, so I don't think we're going to be seeing people just bunny hopping all over the place. Next up, sniper glint. When an enemy aims down sight at you with a sniper rifle with a scope on it, is there going to be like that flashlight effect coming off of their scope? Now, going through all of my gameplay, there were a few times where I got sniped at or I got sniped, and I didn't see a single situation where there was glint. However, I have seen a couple other people point out clips from other players, and there were a few instances where, yeah, it kind of looked like there was a very small amount of glint, nowhere near the level of Modern Warfare. So it seems like the mechanic has definitely changed in some way here when it comes to the glint, and I can't confirm 100%, but in either case, it doesn't look like there's super obvious glint from the sniper rifles. Next up, I had a lot of people asking me, is it going to be a hit scan system or a projectile system where you actually fire bullets out of your gun and there's travel time and you might have to lead your target at longer ranges? Which system are they using? Now, to me, it all felt like hit scan. Even though I had a high ping while I was playing, it did still feel like it was a hit scan system, and I didn't have to lead targets or anything. However, I did notice in the gunsmith, there are a couple attachments that impact your bullet velocity. And that seems to confirm that there is actually going to be some sort of a projectile-based system, and perhaps it's going to be kind of a hybrid system where if you're up close, it's effectively going to be hit scan, whereas if you're beyond a certain range, then it feels more like a projectile system. I'm not too sure. All I can say is, to me at least, based on my limited playtime, it really felt just like a hit scan Call of Duty. Next up, is the tactical sprint option going to be returning from Modern Warfare? No, it's not. We just have the normal sprinting mechanic like we've always had in Call of Duty. Based on feel, it definitely felt like the normal sprint in Cold War is noticeably faster than the normal sprint in Modern Warfare, although obviously not as fast as the tactical sprint, but it is unlimited. And this means it really feels like you can get around the map at roughly the same pace as Modern Warfare if you were implementing tac sprint in with the cooldowns. It seems like you cover about the same amount of distance in the same amount of time. After that, let's talk briefly about health. I broke this down in great detail in a video already, talking about the health values as well as the time to kill, which is more important. But people are asking, is it 100 health or 150? And it turns out you do have 150 health, but the time to kill is a little bit faster than Black Ops 4. Now, unlike Black Ops 4 though, it is an auto-heal system, and the healing time is roughly the same as Modern Warfare by default. So nothing too out of the ordinary when it comes to the healing time for a normal Call of Duty game, with the exception being Black Ops 4. At this point, I also want to mention we don't know if there's going to be any kind of a stim shot or a perk or anything that helps you heal faster. At least in the build that we played, we didn't have access to anything like that. Next, something that I haven't seen a lot of people mention, and I think it's actually a good thing, what is flinch like in Cold War? Honestly, I didn't really notice flinch much at all, and I think that's a good thing. High flinch in a Call of Duty game means you have to aim towards people's knees, for instance, anticipating that flinch so that you get flinched up to their upper torso or their head, and it also leads to a lot more randomness when it comes to those headshot multipliers. And when a Call of Duty game has a flinch value that's too high, that's something that I notice immediately when I play it. And I realized after playing a few hours of Cold War, not once did I ever notice the flinch. And then I went back and looked at my gameplay in slow motion and looked at gunfights where I was being shot at, and honestly, I don't even see any flinch at all. There is some distortion of the screen, so it has a visual flinch effect, but it doesn't seem to move your aim at all, or if it does, it's by a very small margin, which I think is great news. Next up, we have reload cancel mechanics. Now, for those that don't know, when it comes to reloading your gun in Call of Duty, there's almost always an unnecessary animation after you put the mag back in the gun that you don't technically have to complete. The gun is technically reloaded at that point. And historically, we've had multiple methods of canceling this animation out so you can get your gun up faster. One of these methods is sprint canceling. So as soon as that mag is in, you can start sprinting really briefly and it cancels that animation out, and then you can start shooting. In my experience with the Cold War Alpha, there was no ability to sprint cancel your reloads at all. I actually got screwed over by this a few times where I tried to sprint cancel. It just doesn't work in the build that we played. On the other hand, the YY cancel, or double tapping the swap weapon button, that method does work for reload cancel in the build that we played. Next, something I just wanted to clarify because I had a few comments on one of my videos. There is no body armor in this game. At least in the build that we played. Maybe it will come down the road. I hope it doesn't. But some people were seeing a certain hit marker, and that's this one here. It turns out that is actually a flak jacket hit marker, and it popped up at a really inconvenient time in my gameplay where I was actually shooting an enemy player, and that had people thinking that this was body armor. But no, that hit marker was actually from a napalm streak that I had just called in. After that, I've had a lot of people ask, can you plug a mouse and keyboard into your console and play natively like that without having to use some kind of a third-party adapter? And yes, you can. Just like in Modern Warfare, there is native mouse and keyboard support on the PlayStation. And with that, that pretty much wraps it up for all of the really frequently asked questions that I've been getting that I have an answer to. Now, I did want to address a few other things. There are some huge questions that people have been asking me that I honestly just don't know. I don't have the answer for that. And I just wanted to mention what those are today. First up, skill-based matchmaking. I have no idea what they're doing with skill-based matchmaking this year. It's almost definitely going to be returning in some form. I think the question now is more so how strong or strict will the skill-based matchmaking system be? And we don't know at this point. I will be doing a lot of testing on this once the full build launches, but I just don't know right now. The same thing goes with persistent lobbies, so lobbies that stick together where you have to manually leave the lobby, it doesn't just break up after a game, as well as voting for maps. I'm unsure about this, however, it turns out in the middle of Noah J's stream when he was live streaming Cold War, this screen popped up here, and this seems to show a traditional sort of lobby after a game, where not only did the lobby stick together, but also it looks like they have a system in place to vote for maps. Even though it didn't look like it was fully operational here, it looks like the system is in place. And that's not confirmation by any means that that will be in the full build of the game, but I'm really hopeful at least that we will have those lobbies that stick together, as well as the ability to vote for the map that we want to play next. Now, outside of that, I've also been getting a ton of questions about Warzone and how Warzone is going to work with Cold War. And this is another area where I honestly just don't know. I don't have any sort of inside info or anything. They gave us no information on this. So your guess is as good as mine as far as how they're going to handle the transition with Cold War into Warzone. All we know right now is all of your unlocks and everything from Modern Warfare will carry over into whatever they're doing with Warzone in the future. That's all we know. Presumably, they will also have any sort of operators or weapons that you unlock in Cold War. You will probably be able to use those in Warzone as well, but we really don't know at this point. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's video on just a ton of little things that people have been asking me over the past few days. Hopefully you learned at least a few new things from this video. And of course, now that we've had a few days to let the reveal and everything sink in, and you've seen videos from various creators and lots of different gameplay, what are your thoughts on Black Ops Cold War now? And have they changed at all since the moment the game was revealed? Are you feeling any better about the game or worse about the game? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.